She walked into my room and said, "You left something? Or maybe you meant to." I swear I forgot how to breathe. The way her voice slipped in through the quiet, low, steady, carrying just enough weight to feel like more than the words. I was still sitting at the edge of my bed, half distracted by a notebook I hadn't written in for weeks, when she appeared in the doorway. Sunlight spilled behind her, outlining her shape, making her look like she had stepped out of a moment I wasn't ready for. She was holding my jacket, the one I must have left downstairs last night when I came back late, half wet from the rain. I didn't think she'd notice. She noticed everything. I stood up too fast, nearly knocking over the chair. "I didn't mean to," I muttered, but even as the words left my mouth, I wondered if maybe I had. Some stupid excuse to see her again, to cross into her space even when I promised myself I wouldn't. She raised an eyebrow, the corner of her mouth tilting like she could read every thought I was trying to bury. That's so." She didn't hand the jacket over right away. She just held it close, fingers brushing over the fabric like she wasn't sure whether to give it back or keep it. The silence stretched. I tried to meet her eyes, but it was like staring into something that had already decided it could undo me. Her presence filled the room in a way that made my chest feel both heavy and restless. She wasn't supposed to be here. A woman like her didn't just walk into a boy's room. Except she wasn't just a woman, and I wasn't really a boy. Not anymore. "I was going to bring it back later," she said finally, voice softer now, almost careful. "Why later?" I asked before I could stop myself. She didn't answer right away. She glanced around my room instead, the unmade bed, the open books, the coffee mug with a cold ring of brown at the bottom. Her eyes lingered on small things, as if every detail gave me away. When she looked back at me, there was something unreadable in her face, like she wanted to speak but thought better of it. "I don't know," she admitted. Her honesty sat between us, fragile. I stepped closer, reaching for the jacket. My fingers brushed against hers, just for a second, but it was enough to jolt something through me. She pulled her hand back a little too quickly, the movement too sharp to mean nothing. "You should be careful," she said, quieter now. "Careful of what?" Her eyes flickered, searching mine, like she wanted to say the truth, but the words would cost her too much. "Of leaving things where they don't belong." It wasn't just about the jacket. We both knew that. The silence after stretched longer than it should have. I wanted to ask why she really came upstairs. I wanted to ask if she thought about me the way I kept thinking about her. But my throat locked up, and all I managed was a half smile that probably gave too much away. She sighed, a sound that felt like both surrender and warning, then set the jacket on the chair. Her hand lingered there for a second, fingertips resting on the fabric like she wasn't ready to let go. Before I could say anything else, before I could ruin the moment with too much, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. One message, just a few words, but enough to make my stomach tighten. She glanced toward it, then back at me. Her expression shifted, something sharp, almost protective, but also afraid. Neither of us moved. The phone buzzed again, and that's where it began. The buzzing of my phone stopped, but the silence it left was worse. She didn't look away. She stood there with my jacket on the chair, her arms loosely folded, like she was trying to convince herself she hadn't crossed a line by walking in. I wanted to tell her she hadn't. I wanted to tell her I was glad she did. Instead, I shoved the phone under a book without reading the message. "Probably nothing," I said, though the unease in her face told me she didn't believe me. She stepped back, almost to leave. I panicked at the thought and spoke before I could stop myself. "Do you always do this?" Her head tilted. "Do what?" "Pretend you came up here just for a jacket." The air between us went taut. Her lips parted like she might answer, but she pressed them together instead. When she finally spoke, her voice was lower, unsteady in a way I hadn't heard before. "You're too young to know what you're saying." It should have stung, but it didn't. It only made me want to close the distance. "I'm not that young." She let out a short laugh that wasn't really a laugh, more like she was trying to push me away with sound. "You don't know me." She was wrong. I knew more than she realized. I'd heard the hushed phone calls at night when she thought no one was listening, the sharp edge in her tone when she mentioned her husband. I'd seen her pause in front of the family photos in the hallway, her eyes going somewhere else entirely, somewhere private. and I remembered the first time I carried groceries in for her. She had looked at me for a second too long, like she was startled by something in my face, or maybe by the fact that she noticed at all. "I know enough," I said quietly. Her shoulders tightened. For a second, she looked older, not just in years, but in weight, in all the things she carried that no one else seemed to notice. "You think attraction erases everything else? The years, the consequences?" Her words should have scared me, but the way she said them, with the faintest crack in her voice, only drew me closer. "You think I don't lie awake," I said, "wondering why I can't stop thinking about you." She flinched, almost imperceptibly, and then she turned away, pressing her palm against the edge of my desk. Her fingers tapped once, twice, before curling into a fist. "You shouldn't say that," she whispered. "Then why didn't you leave when you had the chance?" That landed. She froze, her back still to me. The room felt too small, too warm. I didn't move closer, not yet, but I could feel something pulling us tight, a current neither of us wanted to name. She finally turned back, her expression unreadable, but her eyes were different now, softer, exposed. I didn't reach for her. I only stood there, waiting. And then, almost without thinking, she reached out first. Just a brush of her hand against mine, as if testing how far she could go before pulling back. She didn't pull back. The touch lingered. A second too long. Maybe two. That was all it took. Her hand still lingered against mine when the sound came from downstairs. A door closing, not loud, but sharp enough to send her hand snapping back. She froze. My stomach tightened. "Was that?" I started. "My husband," she whispered, barely moving her lips. The word hit like cold water. I already knew, of course, but hearing it like that, spoken aloud in my room, made it too real, too dangerous. Her breathing quickened. She moved toward the door, then stopped halfway, looking back at me like she wanted to erase what had just happened. Her voice dropped. "You didn't see me here." Before I could answer, footsteps echoed on the stairs. Heavy, certain. She slipped out into the hallway, pulling the door shut behind her, leaving me in the thick silence of everything unsaid. I sat on the edge of the bed, heart pounding, listening. His voice carried through the walls. "You're upstairs?" Her reply was calm, practiced. "I was just bringing the jacket back." I stared at the chair where it lay, as if the fabric itself carried the weight of what almost happened. Then his footsteps moved away. A door shut. The house settled. I pressed my palms against my face, trying to steady my breathing. I should have felt relieved that nothing happened, that we hadn't crossed the point of no return. But all I could think about was the way her hand felt against mine, how natural it seemed, how wrong it was that we had to pull away. Minutes passed. Maybe more. I thought she was gone until a soft knock tapped at my door. I hesitated, then opened it. She stood there again, arms crossed tight, like she was holding herself together. "He's asleep," she said. Her voice was clipped, but her eyes betrayed her. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered. Her laugh was small, broken. "You think I don't know that?" For a second, we just stared at each other, neither moving. Then she stepped inside, closing the door gently behind her. The air grew thick. Too close. Too quiet. I wanted to touch her again. She wanted to pretend she didn't. Both truths clashed in the space between us. She shook her head, muttering to herself, "This is insane. I can't." But she didn't leave. I moved closer. She backed into the desk, her hands bracing against it. Our faces were inches apart now. Her lips parted, her breath catching. My hand rose, not touching yet, just hovering near her cheek. For a moment, the world narrowed down to that space, that breath, that unbearable closeness. Then the sound of a phone vibrating cut through it. Not mine this time, hers. The screen lit up in her pocket. A name. His name. She sucked in a sharp breath, eyes darting to the glow. The spell broke, shattered by the reminder of where she belonged. She pushed past me, fumbling for the phone, her voice barely steady as she answered. "Yes, I'm fine. I'll be down in a minute." When she hung up, she didn't look at me. She just whispered, "Don't make this harder than it already is," and slipped out of the room. But the tremor in her hand before she let go of the door told me she already had that I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed the look in hers, the split second before the phone rang, when she hadn't pulled away. By morning, the weight in my chest had hardened into something sharper. Want, yes, but also the ache of being kept at arm's length. I found her in the kitchen, making coffee. Sunlight streamed in through the window, catching in her hair. She didn't see me at first, and for a second I just watched her. The way her hand trembled slightly as she poured, the way she steadied herself like she was already exhausted from holding everything in. When she finally turned, her eyes widened just a little, as if she hadn't expected me so soon. "You're up early," she said. "So are you." My voice was flat, almost accusing. She set the mug down too carefully, not meeting my eyes. "Couldn't sleep." Neither could I. The silence stretched, tense and brittle. I should have let it go, but I couldn't. Not anymore. "You keep acting like last night didn't happen," I said. Her shoulders stiffened. "Because it shouldn't have." I stepped closer. "But it did." Her jaw tightened. "You think this is simple, don't you? That you can just want something and make it real? Why are you pretending you don't want it too?" That stopped her. For a moment, her mask slipped, the smallest flicker of truth in her eyes. Then she shook her head, almost violently. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You're young. You still have time to make mistakes that don't ruin lives." "I don't." Her words cut, but they only made me want her more. "So what am I to you then? A mistake?" The hurt in my voice made her falter. She pressed her hand against the counter, steadying herself. "You're dangerous," she said finally. "Dangerous." The word should have pushed me back. Instead, it dragged me forward. "I'm not the one hiding in someone else's house," I said. Her head snapped up, eyes sharp. "Careful." But I didn't stop. "I see the way you look at me. You can tell yourself I'm too young, that this is wrong, but you don't walk into someone's room at midnight just to drop off a jacket. You don't hold someone's hand unless part of you is begging not to let go." Her breath caught. She looked at me like I'd stripped away every wall she'd built. Then, with a suddenness that startled even her, she whispered, "Do you think I don't lie awake wishing I met you years earlier? That I don't imagine what it would feel like if I—" She cut herself off, biting the words back. We were too close now. My chest almost brushed hers. The air burned between us, thick with everything we weren't supposed to say. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, mine to hers. For a heartbeat, there was nothing else in the world. And then, the sound of footsteps upstairs. Heavy, coming closer. We both froze, breath caught in our throats. The footsteps stopped right outside the kitchen. She straightened instantly, stepping away from me, snatching up the mug like she'd been mid-sip all along. The door creaked open. But it wasn't him. It was her daughter. My chest caved at the sight, not because I was caught, but because of the way the girl's eyes moved between us. Too quick, too sharp. "Morning," she said, her tone too casual. Her mother's smile was strained. "You're up early." "So are you," the girl replied. The words mirrored mine from moments ago, and the look she gave me before heading to the fridge, suspicious, knowing, maybe even accusing, made the room feel smaller than ever. When she left, the silence returned, heavier than before. "She knows," I whispered. "She doesn't," she said too quickly, but her trembling hands betrayed her. I pressed forward. "If she tells him, she won't," she snapped, but her voice cracked, breaking the mask she tried so hard to hold. I'd never seen her like that before, cornered, raw. She wasn't the calm, self-possessed woman I thought no one could shake. She looked afraid. "She can't find out," she whispered. "No one can." "Then tell me what we're doing," I said. "Because I can't keep—" My voice caught. "I can't keep pretending I don't care about you." Her eyes filled with something I couldn't read, part longing, part devastation. She shook her head, like she wanted to erase everything I'd just said. Then she dropped the real blow. "I'm leaving him." The words hit harder than anything I expected. I froze. "What?" She exhaled, unsteady, gripping the counter like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "I can't do this anymore." The silence. The pretending. It's been over for years, but I stayed because of her. Because of the house. Because I thought, maybe I could fix what was already broken. She looked at me then, eyes glassy, desperate. But last night, her voice cracked. Last night I realized I can't keep living like this. And maybe I'm a fool. Maybe this is a mistake, but I'd rather burn it all down than keep suffocating. I staggered back. My chest was on fire, but not the way I imagined it would feel. I thought I wanted her to choose me. I thought that was everything. But the weight of it, her marriage, her daughter, her entire life, suddenly crashing into my hands, it terrified me. You don't understand what you're saying, I muttered. Her voice sharpened. I understand more than you think. Don't you dare treat me like some reckless teenager chasing a thrill. I've thought about this for years. She stepped closer, fire in her eyes now. But you make me want to finally do it. I swallowed hard. My heart screamed yes. My head screamed no. And before I could answer, the sound of the front door opening cut through the kitchen. A man's voice, low, steady, unmistakable. Her husband was home. The sound of his keys on the counter snapped us both still. Her husband's voice carried through the hall. Coffee on. She froze, mug still trembling in her hand. For one sharp second, I thought she might shatter right there. Then, without looking at me, she hissed, "Go. Now." But I didn't move. "Please," she begged, softer this time. Not angry, scared. I should have left. Slipped out the back door, pretended none of this had ever happened. But instead I whispered, "Say it first. Tell me this means something." Her eyes flicked to mine, glassy and frantic. "Don't do this to me now." "Then when?" My voice cracked. "When he's gone. When it's safe? You said you were leaving him. I don't know if I can." The words gutted me. Her husband's footsteps were closer now. She grabbed my wrist, pulling me toward the back staircase. Her grip was tight, almost painful, but I didn't resist. We slipped into the narrow stairwell, the door shutting quietly behind us. Darkness wrapped around us, only slivers of light bleeding through the cracks. She leaned against the wall, breathing hard, her hand still on my arm like she couldn't let go even if she tried. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered, voice trembling. "I can't be his wife," and her voice faltered. "And yours too." The words burned through me. "Then choose," I said. Her silence was brutal. She looked at me like the answer was there, sitting in her chest, but saying it out loud would break her. "I want to," she whispered finally. "God, I want to. But it would destroy everything." I stepped closer, my forehead almost touching hers. "Maybe everything already is." Her breath shuddered. In the dark, I felt her fingers brush my face, hesitant, trembling. For a moment, we stood suspended between disaster and something that felt like salvation. Then she kissed me. It wasn't careful. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, rushed, clumsy, like years of restraint collapsing in a single breath. Her hand tangled in my hair, mine on her waist, both of us holding on too tightly, terrified it would vanish. When she finally pulled back, her eyes shone wet in the thin light. "I can't promise you anything," she whispered. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." The ache in my chest nearly buckled me, but I nodded. "I don't need a promise. I just need to know it's real." Her silence was her answer, and the way she leaned her forehead against mine, eyes closing, as if letting herself believe for just this moment. Then her phone buzzed again. His name. She flinched, pulled back, her hand slipping from mine. "I have to go," she whispered. And just like that, she was gone, the door creaking open, footsteps fading into the light of the kitchen, leaving me in the stairwell, breathless, shaking, and certain nothing could go back to the way it was. The stairwell felt colder without her. I stayed there longer than I should have, my back pressed against the wall, trying to hold on to the last trace of her lips on mine. When I finally went back upstairs, the house was already alive with the sound of voices. Hers steady but thin, his low and unreadable. From behind the bedroom door, I couldn't hear the words, only the rhythm. Question, answer, silence. I wanted to storm in, tell him everything, claim her in the open. But I didn't, because I saw what it cost her just to whisper the truth in the dark. So I packed the jacket, the one she brought to me that night. I folded it carefully, tucked it into my bag like proof that it all happened, that it wasn't just some reckless dream. Hours passed. I thought she'd never come. Then, as the house grew quiet again, there was the faintest knock at my door. She stepped in, closing it softly behind her. No pretense this time. Just her, raw, tired, her eyes rimmed red like she'd been fighting battles no one else could see. I told him I need time, she said.